No NYSC story is complete without a tale of the orientation camp. The orientation camp is the beginning, the start of a very interesting journey, one that can only be traveled once in a lifetime. The story is never the same for any two people, but the opportunities are equal for everybody that participates. My story begins. After the long waits and the frustrating postponements, the call came and the time was finally upon me to serve my country. The date, June 13th, 2016. The destination, Adamawa State Orientation Camp, temporarily held in Zibre, Jalingo. I left home a day before orientation camp was to officially open. It was my first journey to the Northeast. I knew the journey was going to be long, but I never expected it to feel like a journey to the afterlife. My God, the journey was long and endless. The biggest surprise lied inside Benue State. We entered the state and continued inside it for what felt like an eternity. We arrived at Taraba State NYSC Orientation Camp a few minutes to 1 a.m., collected mattresses and proceeded to sleep. I had never been so tired. Very early the next morning, soldiers woke us up and ordered us to carry our luggage outside. So we dragged our luggage back outside and waited to be properly introduced to the orientation camp. We were addressed by the camp coordinator, Mr. Ishaya Kale.
Okay, you are welcome to Adamawa State Orientation Camp, Batch A 2016.
The state coordinator, Mr. Umaru Joro Daniel, followed by a few others. Then we were checked and admitted. The first thing I learned about orientation camp was that we had to queue for almost everything. And the queues were usually long and endless, further complicated by some people who have made it their life ambition never to follow due process. The first queue was the one for registration. My God. Over 1,000 prospective corps members, each one a stranger to every other person, queuing up for a registration that took between 20 and 30 minutes to complete per individual. For many of us, this was our first day under the hot northeastern sun of Taraba State, and the sun showed absolutely no mercy. We just stood there under the sun, moving a little over an inch every 30 minutes or so, and growing increasingly impatient with every passing second. Though the sun was merciless and the queue seemed endless, the discussions that started on that queue ended up forming the foundations for strong friendships on camp. Long as it lasted, everybody eventually got registered, and one by one we proceeded to queue for mattresses, then we queued to collect our uniforms, then we queued for lunch, then for dinner, and finally we went to sleep. The almighty parade ground. For me, the parade ground was like that friend you're happy to meet but not to stay with. I had heard so much about the parade ground that I couldn't wait to stand on it. The first few days of orientation camp were all about learning the basics. It was simply unbelievable. Thousands of adults being taught to do things as simple as walk, hop, halt, and even celebrate. We had to learn our left from our right and how to remove and replace headdresses. It was especially surprising to see ladies who have lived their lives removing and replacing headdresses struggle with a simple cap. I just stood and watched in awe. The parade ground was only fun for a few days. Accumulated fatigue resulting from the inadequate sleep, endless routines and drills soon caught up to me. My knees hurt from the standing and my toes went sore from wearing shoes all day, every day. Occasionally, I had to check to make sure I still had toes. I couldn't feel them anymore. Though I despised the standing and the drills, the parade ground had its own way of turning up sometimes. At first, we only had to hop, bend, stretch and twist for our morning drills. But soon, something called the Ajankara position was introduced. It became an instant hit. We had all come as strangers new to one another. but we were all united in our common enjoyment of simple child's play. I realized immediately the magnitude of what was unfolding before my eyes. It was an event, a phase, a final opportunity to relive the excitement of childhood once again for the very last time, before being plunged into that phase of life where there is absolutely no slack. I wasted no time. I joined in, grabbed my waist, bent my knees, and shouted with the rest. It was electric and unforgettable. I attended Taraba Orientation Camp, Jalingo. The food was neither Mr. Biggs nor KFC standard, but it still exceeded my maximum expectation. The food was great and adequate. Since Batch A Stream 2 2016 orientation exercise was held during the Islamic month of Ramadan, there had to be a special formula for food distribution. So fasting corps members had for breakfast what the rest would have for lunch. Then at dinner time, the fasting corps members were given the general dinner meal plus whatever the other corps members had for breakfast. This meant that we had some pretty interesting food combinations. We had beans with yam and fish sauce, beans with yam porridge and tea, beans with bread and tea, beans with tuwo and okra, beans with pap and akara, akara with rice and stew, beans with rice, tea with bread, eba with egusi, and of course, the occasional rice with chicken on Sundays. The food was well prepared, and every meal came with meat or fish, or at least something that looked and tasted like it. Overall, nothing to us. Food was never in short supply. Everybody on camp belonged to a platoon. I belonged to Platoon 8. I don't know about other platoons, but my platoon was nothing short of sick. We had a perfect blend of everything needed for absolute disaster. We had Joseph, aka Tompolo, the noisemaker and jokesteller, who ended up becoming the best platoon leader ever. There was Afolabi.
Oh God! I will shoot you!
We had these two, Jaye and Dini. These guys got away with anything. We had Bola, aka Shakira, and a multitude of other characters. This unique blend of characters meant that our platoon was so much fun. Every day on the parade ground was like a new episode of an awesome comedy series. Tompolo's jokes never ceased, and we were always laughing. This put us in trouble several times. Platoon 8 was always either sitting in the dust, squatting, or serving one punishment or another. Any day on the parade ground without Platoon 8 being punished was declared Christmas. The platoon starts as a group, then it becomes a unit, and then it becomes a family. And it kind of stays that way. The skills acquisition and entrepreneurship development side classes were a big revelation for me. I had never heard of them prior to attending orientation camp. We had lectures on security, first aid, entrepreneurship, and a few other topics. These classes lasted a few hours, but it usually felt like an eternity. And the seating arrangement was epic. It brought back memories of my primary school days, when the seats were never enough. The lectures were nothing short of inspirational, with messages shooting straight at your heart. Many of us with fragile hearts who couldn't handle the power of the inspiration had to find a quiet spot outside where we could sit and meditate. We had to reflect upon issues that had been addressed. Sometimes the meditation got so deep, and the emotions on our faces as we meditated were a testimony to the depth of our reach. But as with all things, even these awesome lectures had to come to an end every day. I'm sure all the core members out there would testify to the awesomeness of these lectures. As I prepared for orientation camp, my goals were simple. I had just 3 of them: become platoon leader, win a contest, and compete in the Mr. Macho competition. I had been told by numerous detractors of the NYSC that participating in the march past was too much wahala, so I went to camp knowing I was going to avoid it. After I was kicked out for being too sloppy, I didn't know what to do with myself. I just sat there watching people learn to walk like robots when I heard them say something about dance and drama. My interest was instant, and I joined the dance and drama group. We all suggested interesting stories to be acted out, but for some reason mine was chosen. It had to do with some hostages fighting their terrorist captors to regain their freedom through unity and hard work. Practice began, and we found a safe haven at the quarter guard where we began to rehearse like crazy. Since it was my plot, I was made the drama director. While we rehearsed for our dance and drama presentations, our platoon competed in other competitions. We lost out of all of them, leaving dance, drama, Mr. Macho, and Miss NYSC our only hopes of any victory. The support was great, and the rehearsal was intense and energetic. The day finally came when we were to present our drama on stage. We did it with military precision. And it was very well received. Our cultural dance presentation 2 days later wasn't any less exciting. And it was very well received too. Since we displayed last, we had some time to celebrate and take pictures. The Mr. Macho and Miss NYSC competitions came next, and my platoon didn't win. I'm not saying the eventual winners didn't deserve it, but my contestants weren't bad either. Unfortunately, results for the dance and drama contests were never announced. That meant that we never knew for sure that we won. It also meant that we didn't lose. Every day on orientation camp was a completely different experience. The atmosphere was just right on so many levels. Free time on orientation camp was a highly cherished and very scarce luxury. So whenever we had any free time, we used it to the fullest. Sometimes we engaged in debates.
No, I will not cook for a lady. Why? By mistake.
Why?
I'm not.
Why? But wait, can you collect money from your wife?
No.
If she buys you a gift, you look collect. Why? Why will you collect it?
At other times, we tried to learn something about each other.
Chief Cook, please introduce yourself to us in your language. Abi? Oh God. Oh, thank you. Ẹ̀yin àwọn Bekwara Eat and tan. Oh. Thank you. The camera on the ground.
Tonight.
Language. Greet us. Do it. Hey. Hey. Thank you.
Honestly, at first, orientation camp was unbearable. The stress was just too much. But as the end drew closer, I found myself wishing it would last forever. I had made so many friends, and I feared leaving camp would mean leaving them forever. Our last day on camp was more fun than all the other days put together. That was probably because emotions were very high, and there was so much tension, resulting from our eagerness to learn our places of primary assignment. After the parade and closing remarks, we proceeded to join the master of all queues. That was the queue for Allowee. One thing I had learned from all my days on camp was that suffering was really a matter of choice. Whether you got it first or you got it last, what mattered in the end was that every single person got it. So the initial struggle usually ended being for nothing. So this queue, I never joined. I don't know why, but I completely fell in love with my Allowee. The money felt like a note of acknowledgement by the federal government, and I absolutely loved the feeling. After collecting the allowance, I headed for the final queue. It was also the rowdiest. Posting letters were being distributed platoon by platoon. Platoon 8 was called, and eventually I got my letter. I was posted to one Mundra High School somewhere in Mobi, Adamawa State. I was confused at first, but eventually I accepted my fate.
Mundra High School, Mobi. I shall go. I shall report. I shall teach. I shall serve.
As I walked back, I noticed buses departing. It broke my heart. I knew for a fact that the glances we shared as they waved goodbye would be the very last. I was sincerely heartbroken. You really can't blame me for getting as emotional as I got. I was an ISECer for many years, and attending ISEC conferences meant that I was used to saying painful goodbyes. But this was all too different. I spent years in the university living on the sidelines. I was never in front. I was too shy to say a word and too afraid to make a move. Here on campus where it all changed. I became who I never thought I had the capacity to become. I was well known, at least inside my platoon. I became very dear to my actors and dancers, and I loved them like my own brothers and sisters. They even nicknamed me Give It To Me, a name originating from my endless chants of give it to me as I taught the drummers how to beat the drum.
Thank you. Don't give it to me. Thank you. Give it to me. Thank you. Give it to me. Thank you.
I strolled back to the quarter guard where my dance and drama troupe had practiced. It felt like time travel. I could almost see myself doing what I came to be known for. Dancing. It was simply too much to hold in. I cried like a baby. The time came when we had to leave. As we drove out of the orientation camp, I looked back at it with love and inestimable gratitude. It felt like I was leaving home. My NYSC experience so far has been the best I've had in a long time, and I still have 11 months to go. Not everybody will take it for what it was created to be, but its promise of equal opportunity exists for those who look beyond its many flaws to see the true intention of the founders.
People do not want you to rule. They want you to be a true man. President Jonathan chose the unity of this country. He chose the unity of this country over fight.
All thanks to the best state coordinator ever, Mr. Umaru Joro Daniel, and to the most capable camp coordinator, Mr. Ishaya Caleb. All thanks to all the Adamawa Corps members, Batch A Stream 2 2016, including those that relocated and dislocated. Plenty thanks to Platoon 8 and all our platoon officials.